This video will go over many of the basic tools of Ultimate Doom Builder and practical advice for putting together a great map. The basic building block of every Doom level is sectors. Each sector contains information about walls, location, size, height, textures, brightness, and more. You'll learn a lot by doing, so let's put down some sectors. You can draw sectors in a few ways. There are tools for drawing lines, squares or rectangles, circular shapes, and more. The line tool, which lets you draw any shape you want and place corners anywhere on the grid, is the most versatile and easiest to use. Press Ctrl D to start drawing your line. When you close the sector off by returning to the origin of the line, it will fill the space in with a floor, ceiling, and walls. The default overhead 2D mode lets you easily tweak level layout and make lots of technical changes to actions, sizing, monster and item placement, etc. You can swap between this 2D view and visual mode by pressing Q. Visual mode is best for changing textures, adjusting texture alignment and sector brightness, and adjusting the height of floors and ceilings. Moving around visual mode is odd. You use the ESDF keys instead of WASD. Remember this. In visual mode, you can point the cursor at a floor or ceiling and use the mouse wheel to adjust height. There are a couple of useful numbers to keep in mind though. Doom Guy can't walk up steps more than 24 units above the current floor, and he also can't fit into rooms shorter than 56 units tall. Most textures are designed to be 64 or 128 units tall. So building room heights in multiples of 64 is an easy way to make your textures fit the room. Speaking of textures, when highlighting a floor, ceiling, or wall in visual mode, you can right-click to open this detailed window. From here, you can change textures. There's a huge library available, so take your time browsing the complete collection as you build your level. Floor and ceiling textures are called flats. You can't use wall textures as flats or vice versa. If your highlighter ever disappears, you may have bumped the H key. This toggles the yellow highlight. InTraining has done this many times and spent a while trying to figure out what broke. In 2D mode, you can press the L key to enter line depths mode, and then right-click lines to access the same window. You can also press the S key to enter sectors mode and right-click sectors. When you press the T key, you will enter things mode. Things encompass everything else in Doom. Enemies, items, ammo, weapons, decorative objects, player starts, teleport destinations, and more. In Things mode, you can right-click a spot on your map to open the Things window. Take some time to see what's available to place in your level. Every level needs two elements to function, a player start and an exit. Once you have a player start, you can drop into testing mode. Under Tools at the top of the program, select Game Configurations followed by the Testing tab. Here, you can point Ultimate Doom Builder to your preferred source port for testing. Once you have a testing engine selected, you can press F9 to jump into a level test at any time. You can also press Ctrl F9 to enter testing mode from wherever your mouse cursor is placed. Most Doom levels revolve around altering the environment of the level to progress. Opening doors, finding keys, raising lifts, triggering traps, the classics. We will make a simple switch and a working door to introduce these tools to you. First, let's make a lift. InTraining has drawn an elevated floor with a square of a slightly different size and texture at one end. In sector mode, you can right-click a sector and add a numbered tag to it. Tags let you link line actions to specific sectors. Next to the lift, InTraining has built an obvious switch. In the texture viewer, you will see many textures that begin with SW. These are special switch textures that animate when Doom Guy activates them. You can make any line a switch, but if you do, it's best to use these switch textures so players know to use them. An exception is when you're building secrets, when you want to hide the interaction from players. Once the switch is nice and textured, you can right-click the line in line depths mode to pull up its detailed info. Here, you can click on Browse Action to see all the actions available in Doom. Again, take some time to browse and get familiar with your options. There's a handy key at the bottom of this window to help you understand the actions. For this lift, we want to be able to lower it multiple times and for it to be activated by a switch. So we open Lift, then find SR, a switch you can reuse, then find the movement we are looking for. This means we will assign this line with action number 62, switch repeatable lift lower weight raise. You can also use the search bar at the top of the action browser to filter available actions. And look at that, it works! Now that we've made a lift, let's get out of this room. But of course, we'll need a door. Doors seem simple, but operate in a kind of funky manner in Doom. Let's take a look. Doors in Doom are technically ceilings that are the same height as the floor. When you interact with a door, the ceiling raises rapidly, waits a bit, and then drops back down. InTraining has built a pretty standard door here using the doorstop and door track textures along the wall to visually separate the door from the rest of the room. It's also best to use the various door textures available, like this classic, Big Door 2. You will see a little white piece sticking out of lines you make. This shows which side of a line is interactable. You can swap these directions by highlighting a line in line def mode and pressing F. If a line has an action but no sector tag associated with it, the action will be applied to the sector directly behind the line, meaning the opposite side of the little white piece. The most common application of this is basic door actions. Press use on the door and it opens. Once your door is textured and properly built, you can assign your door action, D1 or DR. You can also separate the action from the door, like using a switch to open a door. In these cases, you still use door actions, but you have to assign sectors like we did earlier building the lift. It's super important that doors can be opened from both sides, so you don't accidentally lock Doom Guy in rooms with a one-way door. Of course, sometimes you want to make a one-way door to trap him inside with demons, but just be aware of how to do this on purpose and not by mistake. In door actions, you will see options that require red, blue, or yellow keys. When you make a door that requires a key, there's nothing that's actually obviously indicating that it is locked. This is why Adrian Carmack included many helpful color-coded textures so that you can place around doors to show which key Doom Guy will need to use, like so. Now that we have a player start, some demons, a sweet lift, a key, and some doors, it's time to get out of here. All we need is an exit. You can tag any line with Action 11, switch once only exit level. Interacting with an Action 11 line will end the level and bring you to the results screen. Like the doors above, there's nothing that distinguishes a level exit by default. You should use very obvious exit textures to make it extremely clear to players that they are leaving your level. There's also a walkover exit option, which is how Sandy Peterson made the exits in episode 3 where you walk into a teleport pad. These can be fun ways to add flair to a finale, but just make sure it's super obvious that the location is an exit. Additionally, there are secret exit line actions. These only work on map 15 and map 31, but they act as alternate exits that bring you to secret levels. And with that, you have everything you need to make Doom levels. Again, if you'd like to experiment from here, dive in. The final video will cover even more details: visual flair, brightness, floors that hurt you, outdoor areas, teleports, traps, and more. Try making some rooms, switches, and doors before checking out the third video. Happy dooming!